Mara sat on the dusty ground, her back resting against a cold metal wall inside the alien mining outpost. The air felt thick, heavy, and dry. Her lips were cracked, and her throat burned as if someone had scraped it with sand. She could barely lift her head now. For hours she had begged for a single cup of water. For hours no one listened. A group of alien workers stood nearby, tall figures with gray-green skin and ridged arms. Their voices were sharp and mocking. Every time Mara whispered for water, they laughed harder. "Look at her," one alien said, pointing at her shaking hands. "Humans are so weak. No endurance. No honor." Another alien leaned down and tapped her forehead with a metal spoon. "Speak louder, little human. Beg again. We cannot hear you." Mara tried to speak, but her voice broke. It came out as a dry whisper. "Please, water." The aliens burst into loud laughter, their deep voices echoing inside the metal room. They enjoyed this. Her suffering was their entertainment. A new group of workers entered the outpost at that moment. Among them was Elias, a human, but not like the others. He had been transferred to this outpost only that morning. He walked with a steady, careful pace, observing everything with calm eyes. His face was tired, but strong, and it was clear he had seen hardship before. He noticed Mara immediately. Her frail body, her trembling fingers, her painful breathing, and the aliens laughing. Elias stopped walking. Something inside him tightened. He had seen cruelty before, but not like this. The human workers behind him kept their heads low, pretending not to notice. They had learned the rules of survival here. Don't look, don't speak, don't resist. But Elias could not look away. He watched as one alien lifted a metal cup filled with crystal-clear water. The alien held it inches from Mara's face, letting her see the droplets sliding down the cup. Mara's eyes widened with desperate hope. Then the alien tilted the cup and poured the water onto the dirt floor. Mara made a small sound. Not a scream, not a cry, just a tiny broken sound that almost no one could hear. But Elias heard it, and that was enough. The alien supervisor, a taller and more muscular figure, stepped forward. "Human girl refused to work," he said, as if announcing a crime. "No water for disobedience." Mara's voice was barely a breath. "I couldn't stand my legs." The supervisor shrugged. "A weak human is a useless human." Elias felt something snap inside him. A slow, burning anger began to grow in his chest. His fists tightened until his knuckles turned white. Still, he said nothing. Not yet. The workers spread out to continue their tasks. The aliens left Mara lying on the ground. No one bothered to help her stand. No one cared if she lived or died. Elias walked past her, pretending to follow orders, but he paused. Very slowly. He crouched beside her, so the aliens wouldn't notice right away. Her eyes barely opened. "Please," she whispered again. "Water?" Elias felt his throat tighten. He wanted to speak, to comfort her, but he knew one wrong word could get them both punished. He glanced around. The aliens were distracted, busy arguing over a broken machine part. He reached into his work bag. Every human carried a small ration pack, a tiny amount of water meant for emergencies. Elias hesitated. Giving it to Mara could lead to punishment, beatings, worse things. But he couldn't ignore her suffering. He pulled out the small water capsule. He touched Mara's shoulder gently. "Drink slowly," he whispered. Mara's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness but shock, hope, relief. Her fingers trembled as she touched the capsule. But before she could drink it, a shadow fell over them. A heavy footstep echoed. Elias looked up and saw the alien supervisor towering above him. The supervisor's eyes glowed with cold amusement, and a thin smile formed across his face. "So," the alien said slowly, "a new human wants to be brave." Elias stood up, facing him, the water capsule still in his hand. The entire room went silent. Every alien watched. Every human held their breath. This was the moment where everything would change. Elias knew it, and he did not back down. The alien supervisor stared down at Elias, waiting for him to tremble or drop the water capsule. That was what humans usually did. They fear the aliens. They obeyed. They bowed their heads and stayed silent. But Elias did not move. He stood straight, holding the capsule tightly, his eyes calm but burning with something deeper. A few humans in the room looked away quickly. They did not want to be connected to him. They knew what happened to anyone who challenged the aliens. Punishment here was not just painful. It was meant to break a person. The supervisor slowly circled Elias, studying him like a hunter examining new prey. You give water without permission, the alien said. You challenge the rules. You choose to protect the weak. Why? Elias did not answer at first. His mind moved carefully. He could lie, but lies would not save him now. He could stay silent, but silence might make things worse. Finally he spoke. Because she will die, Elias said simply. His voice was quiet, but the words hit the room like a strike of metal. The alien stared at him, surprised by the calm tone. The supervisor laughed. It was not a normal laugh. It was a sharp, metallic sound that made the humans flinch. Humans die every day in these outposts, the supervisor said, and still more are brought here. Why should this one matter to you? Elias did not break eye contact. Because she is human. A soft murmur spread among the human workers. No one had spoken with such direct courage in months, maybe years. The supervisor's smile faded. You think humans are special? You think you can help her? Without waiting for permission, Elias crouched beside Mara again. Her eyes were half open. She looked almost unconscious. Carefully, he lifted her head and brought the water capsule to her lips. The room froze. Mara sucked in a weak breath. Then, slowly, she drank. Only a small amount, but it was enough to give her life again. The aliens watched in shocked silence. Humans had helped each other secretly before, but never openly, never in front of them. Elias stood up once she had finished. He faced the supervisor again. It's done, he said. The supervisor's expression twisted with anger. You dare give orders? Elias said nothing, but his silence was louder than any shout. The supervisor took a long step forward until he stood only inches away. Elias could feel the alien's breath, hot and foul, on his face. You want to be a hero? The supervisor whispered. Heroes die first. One alien behind him muttered, break his arms. Make an example. Another said, put him in the punishment chamber. A third added, no, send him outside the barrier. Let the storms take him. The humans trembled. Mara tried to sit up, but fell back down. Elias stayed completely still. The supervisor raised an arm, ready to strike. The metal plates on his forearm glowed red, an indicator of a painful shock charge. But before he could attack, another alien worker hurried into the room, out of breath. Supervisor, the new alien gasped. The West drilling unit collapsed. We need extra labor. Now! The supervisor grunted. He lowered his arm, but did not remove his glare from Elias. You got lucky, human, he said. Work first. Punishment later. I will deal with you. He pointed at two aliens. Take the girl back to the sleeping barracks. Do not let her faint again. If she dies, the overseer will ask questions. The aliens lifted Mara roughly and carried her away. Elias watched, trying to make sure they didn't harm her further. Then the supervisor turned to Elias again. You, come with me. You caused trouble. Now you will work twice as hard. He shoved Elias toward the door. Elias didn't resist. Not here, not now. The important thing was that Mara had lived through the moment. As he walked out, he noticed the eyes of several human workers following him, not with fear this time, but with something different. Respect, hope, maybe even courage. For the next hours, Elias worked under the burning light of alien mining lamps. The West drilling collapse was severe. He carried broken metal parts, moved debris, and helped stabilize the damaged structure. The supervisor did not stop watching him, not even for a second. Every mistake, every pause, every breath Elias took was observed. But Elias moved with discipline. He had worked in worse conditions before. Hard labor did not scare him. What scared him was the idea of doing nothing while his own people suffered. When the shift finally ended, The aliens ordered everyone back to their barracks. Elias wiped sweat from his face and walked slowly through the dim corridor. He was exhausted, but his mind was sharp. He expected punishment tonight, maybe even torture. The supervisor had made that very clear. But before any alien could stop him, Elias changed direction. He walked toward the sleeping barracks where Mara had been taken. Inside, dim blue lights lined the ceiling. The room smelled of dust and old metal. Humans lay in rows of simple beds, thin, barely comfortable. Mara rested in the corner. She looked a little stronger now. Her breathing had returned to normal. Someone had covered her with a blanket. Elias sat beside her. She opened her eyes and whispered, "You helped me." Elias nodded. "You needed water." Tears filled her eyes. "They would have killed me." "I know," Elias said softly. Then Mara's voice changed. Serious, afraid. "Elias, I need to tell you something. Something dangerous." He leaned closer. "What is it?" he asked. Mara swallowed hard. "The aliens, they have a plan. Something big. Something terrible. And I heard it by accident." Elias froze. The room seemed to grow colder. "What did you hear?" he whispered. Mara closed her eyes. "They are preparing to get rid of all humans on this outpost." Elias felt his stomach tighten when he heard Mara's words. The room around them went silent in his mind. Only Mara's weak breathing broke the stillness. He spoke quietly. "Mara, what do you mean? How do you know this?" Mara looked pale, but her voice was steady. "Yesterday, when they dragged me to the storage area, 2 alien officers were there. They didn't see me at first. They were talking about a new order. Cleaning order." Elias frowned. "Cleaning?" She nodded. "That's what they called it. But then they said something else. They said humans take up space. Humans waste water. Humans slow down production." Elias felt a cold chill move down his spine. Mara continued. "One officer laughed and said, 'Soon, we won't have to feed them anymore.' The other said the supervisor will start reducing the numbers in secret." Elias absorbed her words slowly. This wasn't just cruelty anymore. This was a plan to erase them. "Why didn't you tell someone earlier?" Elias asked softly. Mara looked guilty. "I tried, but before I could speak, they beat me for collapsing. Then I stayed unconscious for hours. When I woke up, I could barely breathe." Elias placed a hand on her blanket. "You did well. Telling me now is enough." But inside, Elias felt a storm building. He had seen many kinds of suffering in his life, but systematic destruction. This was something darker. He knew one truth immediately. If the aliens started removing humans, no one would be safe, not even the ones who obeyed every rule. While Mara rested, Elias leaned back and thought hard. His mind worked fast, putting pieces together. The supervisor's threats, the harsh punishments, the lack of food, the sudden increase in accidents. It wasn't random. A plan like this meant something worse was coming soon. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Elias tensed, expecting the supervisor. But instead, 2 human workers entered. Their eyes widened when they saw Elias sitting beside Mara. One whispered, "You're brave or crazy. The supervisor is hunting you." Another added, "Everyone heard about what you did. They're angry. They don't like humans showing courage." Elias nodded calmly. "I know." The men looked at each other nervously. One of them finally asked, "Why did you do it? Why risk so much for her?" Elias looked down at Mara, now asleep. "Because someone had to," he said quietly. The men said nothing, but he could see it in their eyes. Something inside them had shifted. A small spark. A beginning. Elias stood. "Help me watch over her. Don't let the aliens touch her again. She knows something they don't want us to hear." The men nodded slowly. "We'll keep guard." Elias turned to leave, but as he walked toward the door, the other man called out, "Elias, be careful. The supervisor isn't waiting until morning." Elias paused. "What do you mean?" "He ordered guards to find you after lights out. They're coming tonight." Elias exhaled slowly. This was expected, but still dangerous. "Thank you," he said. Then he stepped out into the hallway. The corridor was dim, lit only by flickering blue lights. The metal walls hummed with the vibration of heavy machinery deeper in the outpost. Elias walked with quiet steps, listening for danger. He didn't have to wait long. A shadow moved on the far end of the hall. Then another. Alien guards. Elias quickly slipped into a side passage, moving without making a sound. He had learned to move like this long before coming here. Work camps, forced labor, war zones. Elias had survived many things by staying alert. He heard the aliens' voices behind him. Find the human. He thinks he can break rules. Supervisor wants him alive for now. Elias found a narrow maintenance stairway and slipped inside. The air smelled of rust and oil. The stairs led down toward the old storage level, barely used now. He moved silently until he reached a dark corner. He crouched, breathing slowly and listening. The guards' footsteps passed above. Their voices faded, but Elias didn't relax. It was only a matter of time before they came again. He needed to warn others. He needed to plan. He needed allies, and he needed to protect Mara. A faint sound echoed behind him, soft footsteps. Elias spun around, ready to fight, but it wasn't an alien. It was a human woman, thin and tired-looking, carrying a small toolbox. She flinched when she saw him. "Don't hurt me. I mean no trouble." Elias lowered his hands. "I won't. Who are you?" "My name is Lyra," she whispered. "I fix machines. And I saw what you did today. Then you know I'll be punished." Lyra shook her head. "Punished? No. They want to break you, make an example of you. But..." She looked around nervously. "Some of us don't want to let that happen." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Some of us." Lyra nodded quickly. "There are humans who still believe in fighting back. Quietly, carefully, we've been waiting for a chance. Waiting for someone brave enough to start something." Elias stared at her, surprised. "You think I'm that person?" Lyra's voice was steady. "You already proved it." Elias felt a strange feeling in his chest. Something heavy, but also hopeful. Strength. Purpose. He had acted to save one girl, but maybe it would lead to something bigger. Lyra looked toward the stairs. "Come with me. It's not safe here. And there's something you need to see. Something important." Elias hesitated only a moment. Then he nodded. "Show me." Together. They slipped deeper into the dark storage level. Something was unfolding in the shadows. Something that could change everything. Lyra led Elias down a narrow hallway that sloped gently downward. The walls around them were old, scratched, and covered with dents from years of rough handling. This part of the mining outpost hadn't been used regularly in a long time. The lights flickered, and the air felt cooler. Elias followed her carefully, staying alert. Every sound echoed. Distant pipes, dripping water, the soft machinery above. It didn't feel like a safe place, but it also felt hidden. And hidden was exactly what Elias needed right now. They reached a metal door with a broken lock. Lyra pushed it open and stepped inside. Elias paused in the doorway, surprised. Inside the room were 6 humans, sitting around dim lanterns made out of old battery cells. Their clothes were worn, but their eyes were sharp. Not empty like most workers, alive, watching, thinking. One man, older with gray stubble, stood up. "This him?" he asked Lyra. She nodded. "Yes, this is the one who stood up to the aliens today." The others whispered among themselves. Some looked impressed. Others looked worried. Elias scanned the room. "Who are you?" The older man stepped forward. "My name is Rain. We are what's left of the resistance." He gave a small, bitter laugh. "Not much, I know, but still standing." Elias crossed his arms. "Resistance? I thought humans stopped fighting long ago. Most seemed too broken to even look the aliens in the eye." Rain nodded sadly. "That's what the aliens want. They punish anyone who shows strength. They starve us, overwork us, break our spirits. Little by little, humans stop trying." Lyra added softly, "But not all of us gave up. We meet here, in secret, to share information, to protect each other, to plan small acts of resistance. Elias understood. He had seen this in other war zones, groups hiding in the shadows because open rebellion meant death. So why bring me here? Elias asked. Rain exchanged glances with the others. Because you did something today that we haven't seen in a long time. You helped someone openly, without fear. You looked an alien officer in the eye and didn't bend. Lyra stepped forward. A person like you could be the beginning of something larger. Elias's voice was steady. I didn't act to spark a rebellion. I acted because Mara was dying. And that, Rain said, is exactly why you matter. The room fell silent for a moment. Elias exhaled. Listen, there's something you all need to know. Mara overheard alien officers talking. They planned to reduce human numbers. Quietly, soon. The entire group stiffened. One woman whispered. So the rumors were true. Rain clenched his jaw. We suspected something was wrong. Work accidents increased. Food shipments got smaller. Sick workers disappeared. We knew the aliens were preparing something, but we didn't know it was that bad. They're planning a full removal, Elias said. A complete wipe. The room buzzed with fear. Lyra covered her mouth. But why? Why now? Rain explained. The mining production targets increased last cycle. The aliens want efficiency. They think machines can replace half the human labor. Less mouths, fewer problems. Elias shook his head slowly. Then we won't survive unless we act. We need a plan. We need to protect Mara. She knows too much. They may already suspect she heard something. Everyone seemed to think about this at the same time. Lyra spoke first. Maybe we can move her here. Hide her in this storage level. Rain disagreed. Too dangerous. If she disappears, the aliens will search everywhere. They will tear apart the outpost. Elias rubbed his forehead. He could almost feel the pressure building from every direction. A young man in the group raised his hand nervously. Maybe we don't hide her completely. Maybe we hide her in plain sight. Elias looked at him. Explain. The young man swallowed. Put her with a different work group. Somewhere the supervisor doesn't expect. If she blends in, she's harder to track. Rain nodded slowly. It could work. The aliens don't monitor every human closely. They rely on fear to keep us quiet. But Elias wasn't satisfied. That protects her for now. But what about the bigger problem? We need to know when this wipeout is supposed to happen. Lyra hesitated. Elias, there is something else we haven't shown you yet. Something important. She crossed the room and pulled a metal sheet away from the wall. Behind it was a small opening leading to another chamber. Elias followed her inside. The moment he stepped in, he froze. On the floor were maps, hand-drawn maps of the entire outpost, tunnels, corridors, alien patrol routes. There were lists of alien shift changes, supply counts, and even sketches of alien machinery. You did all this? Elias asked, shocked. Lyra nodded proudly. We worked on it for months. Every detail we could gather without getting caught. Rain joined them. We didn't know how useful this would be. But now, with what Mara told you, he pointed at the map of the main command area. This is where they would announce a purge. This is where new orders are stored. Elias crouched, studying the map carefully. Are you saying we break in? Lyra's eyes widened. That's impossible. But Rain's expression changed. Not impossible. Just dangerous. Elias looked at him. We need proof. We need to know when and how the purge will begin. If we know that, we can warn every human. We could escape. Or fight. The room fell into deep silence. Everyone stared at Elias. Rain finally spoke. You are asking us to take the biggest risk of our lives. Elias nodded slowly. If we do nothing, we die anyway. The older man straightened his back. Then maybe it's time we try. Lyra looked from Elias to the map, fear and hope mixing in her eyes. Then, she whispered, we have a mission. Elias stood over the map, studying every line and mark with slow, careful focus. The room felt heavier now, not with fear alone, but with responsibility. For the first time in years, the humans in this outpost saw a real possibility. Action, not silence. Rain leaned on a crate beside him. If we're really doing this, we need more than courage. We need people. Elias nodded. How many can we trust? Lyra answered. Maybe 15, but only 8 know how to fight. The others are afraid. Fear is normal, Elias said softly. But if they stay afraid forever, they won't live long anyway. The small group exchanged quiet glances. Elias's words weren't meant to scare them. They were simply true. Rain tapped the map. The main command area is guarded day and night. 2 aliens on the outside, 1 inside. They keep security crystal there. Contains all incoming orders. Elias traced the path on the map with his finger. We go through the maintenance duct. No, Lyra said quickly. Too loud. And the duct sensors will catch movement. The aliens will lock the whole area down. A young woman stepped forward shyly. There's another way. A waste tunnel. It runs under the command block. The aliens don't check it often because it smells terrible. Rain scratched his chin. I forgot about that tunnel. But it's narrow. Elias didn't mind. Narrow is fine. Quiet is better. The plan was forming piece by piece. They needed more information, more people, and a safe way to prepare without alerting the aliens. But before they could think further, footsteps echoed from the hall outside. Everyone froze. Lyra grabbed Elias's arm and whispered, Hide! Elias moved quickly, slipping behind a stack of metal containers. The others scattered into shadows, switching off the lanterns. The door creaked open. Heavy steps. 2 aliens. Elias held his breath. 1 alien sniffed the air. Strange smell. The other grunted. Humans probably sneaking here to sleep. Lazy creatures. Their armored feet scraped across the floor. The tall shadows moved closer to the boxes where Elias hid. Rain stepped out into view from the opposite corner. Room empty, he shouted loudly in alien language. Elias stared. Rain was fluent? The aliens turned toward him. You speak our tongue, human? Rain bowed his head. Enough to understand orders. Supervisor sent me to check stores. Something missing. The aliens exchanged doubtful glances. One finally said, Nothing here. Come. Supervisor wants a new human found tonight. Elias stiffened. They were looking for him. Rain pretended confusion. New human? One transferred today. Yes. The alien snapped. He disobeyed. He must be punished. Rain bowed again. I will help look. The aliens grunted and left. The heavy door slammed shut. Elias stepped out from hiding. Rain, you speak their language? Rain let out a small sigh. A little. Enough to lie when needed. Worked with them years ago, before they took our freedom. Lyra shook her head in disbelief. You saved us. Rain shrugged. I saved tonight. We still need to save tomorrow. Elias nodded. Then we start preparing now. The aliens won't rest until they find me. That means we don't have time. He looked at every person in the room. Their faces were pale but determined, tired but alive. We need to bring trusted humans here, Elias said. Not many, only the ones who won't break. Rain agreed. We'll do it carefully. Quiet conversations. No groups. No noise. Lyra added, What about Mara? We can't leave her alone. The supervisor may question her again. Elias's expression hardened. Mara needs protection. I'll check on her tonight. Rain stopped him with a raised hand. Elias, if they catch you now, they'll kill you. Elias stepped closer and spoke calmly. If Mara dies, everything dies with her. She knows too much. The room fell silent. Finally, Lyra whispered, Then we'll distract the guards. You go, but quickly. A small plan formed. Lyra would cause a short power flicker in one hallway that would force 2 aliens to investigate, leaving a small window for Elias to move. Within minutes, Lyra set her tools on a control box. Sparks danced briefly. The hallway lights dimmed and blinked. Far away, alien voices shouted, Power fault. Find the cause. Elias moved. Silent. Fast. Focused. He slipped through the shadows, following the quietest path toward the barracks. A distant hum of machinery filled the air. His heart beat slow and controlled. Every step was measured. When he reached the barracks, he found the entrance unguarded. The distraction had worked. Inside, humans lay sleeping or pretending to sleep. Elias moved between the rows until he reached Mara's bed. She was awake, sitting against the wall, clutching her blanket tightly. Her eyes widened as soon as she saw him. "Elias, where did you go? They're looking for you." "I know," he whispered, "but I needed to check on you." Her voice trembled. "It's worse than you think. Today, when they moved me, I saw something." Elias crouched closer. "What did you see?" Mara swallowed hard. "I saw a list of names. Human names. And next to each name was a number." Elias frowned. "Numbers?" Mara nodded slowly. "Numbers of days left." Elias felt the air around him turn cold. "You're saying they already decided who dies first?" A tear rolled down Mara's cheek. "Yes, Elias. And your name was near the top." Elias's jaw tightened, but he didn't show fear. Instead, he placed a hand on her shoulder. Then he said softly, "We don't let their plan happen." He stood up, "And we start tomorrow." Caro stood inside the silent chamber. The door closed behind him. The air felt heavy, almost alive, as if the machine understood his presence. The walls glowed with soft blue patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. The small container of water rested on a metal platform in front of him, shining under a pale beam of light. He knew this wasn't only a test for him. This was a test for everyone watching outside. As the chamber scanned him again, a faint voice echoed inside his mind. It wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. It felt like a tired whisper, asking one simple question. "Why?" Caro swallowed and spoke out loud, unsure if the machine understood words. "I'm giving her water because she deserves it," he said. "Because no one should suffer like that. Because doing nothing makes us no better than the ones who harmed her." The glowing lines flickered. For a moment, the air warmed around him, almost as if the machine was thinking or remembering. Outside the chamber, Commander Lurik watched with clenched teeth. He was trembling with fear, not of the machine, but of what Caro represented. If a human succeeded here, everything Lurik built, his power, his status, his fear-based control, would collapse. Saul, on the other hand, stood at the front of the viewing platform, her hands pressed against the glass. Her throat burned with dryness, but her eyes stayed fixed on Caro. She didn't blink as the glowing patterns moved around him. She believed in him, more than she believed in anyone. Inside the chamber, the soft voice came again. "Why help the weak?" Caro sighed. "Because strength means nothing if you don't use it to protect others." The chamber suddenly flared with bright light. The platform holding the water began to rise slowly. Caro's chest tightened as he feared the machine might destroy the water again. But instead, the water floated upward until it hovered in front of him, held in a glowing sphere. The machine wanted him to take it. He raised his hands carefully. The moment his fingers touched the sphere, the glowing walls shifted from blue to gold. A deep rumble echoed from beneath the chamber floor. For the first time, the station seemed calm. Then a message appeared above him, written in shimmering alien symbols. Outside, Saul gasped. She recognized the ancient script, the language of the original builders. Commander Lurik shouted, "Turn the feed off!" Cut the display. But it was too late. The message translated across every screen in the station. Character over power. Compassion over cruelty. The one who stands for others will remain. A soft tone echoed. The chamber door slid open. Caro stepped out, holding a sphere of water in both hands. Everyone staring at him fell completely silent. Even the guards lowered their weapons. No one dared move. He walked straight toward Saul. His steps were steady, even though his heart raced. When he reached her, he held out the glowing sphere. "For you," he said gently. Saul reached out with shaking hands. The moment her skin touched the glowing sphere, it dissolved into liquid form, turning into a perfect ball of water that rested gently in her palms. She didn't wait. She brought it to her lips and drank. Her entire body relaxed. Her eyes closed. Tears, finally tears, ran down her cheeks, mixing with the water. The watching aliens murmured among themselves. He passed the trial. The machine accepted him. That has not happened in centuries. Commander Lurik stepped forward, still trembling with fury. "This means nothing," he shouted. "He thinks a trick with the machine makes him a hero? No, he embarrassed us before an audience. His actions encourage rebellion." He pointed at Saul. "And she disobeyed our rules." Saul flinched as guards moved toward her. Caro stepped between her and the guards before anyone could react. "No one touches her," he said. The guards stopped. They weren't afraid of Caro. They were afraid of what the chamber had just proven. The machine had chosen Caro. Anyone who harmed him risked punishment from the station itself. Lurik realized this too late. A loud alarm echoed through the halls. The walls flickered with the same golden light from the chamber. The ancient system's voice boomed across the station. "The human passes. Leadership must respond." Gasps spread through the crowd. This message had only one meaning: a trial of leadership. The station's control would temporarily shift to whoever the machine recognized as the most worthy. And right now, Caro was the only one it had accepted. Commander Lurik grew pale. No, this can't be happening." But the machine didn't care about his fear. Caro carefully helped Saul stand. She felt stronger already as the water eased the burning inside her body. "You didn't have to do this," Saul whispered. "Yes," Caro replied softly. "I did." The golden lights grew brighter. The floor vibrated gently under their feet. Somewhere deep inside the station, old systems awakened. Systems that had been silent for generations. Because of one human. Because he chose compassion. The HFY moment had begun, and the station was about to witness something it had never seen before. The station trembled slightly, as if it had awakened from a long, silent slumber. Golden light spilled into every corridor, shining on the tired faces of humans and aliens alike. Caro stood beside Saul, who now looked alive, healthy, and filled with a strength she had never felt before. Around them, the other humans gathered quietly, but their eyes were bright, alert, awake, and full of hope. For the first time, fear did not rule the outpost. Caro took a deep breath and looked around. He knew the aliens were watching, waiting for him to falter. But he did not falter. Not now. Not ever. "The humans will not obey by fear," he said loudly, his voice echoing down the corridor. "We are strong. We are brave. We protect our own. And we will not bow to cruelty." Murmurs spread among the humans. Their heads lifted, their spines straightened. For months, perhaps years, they had bent the aliens' will. But now, someone had shown them that courage mattered. That one human could make a difference. From the shadows, Commander Lurik stepped forward, face pale and lips pressed tight. He had expected the humans to cower, to break under punishment, to remain silent. He had expected Caro to be punished, to serve as an example of weakness. But none of that had happened. The machine had chosen, and the station itself now obeyed Caro's presence. "You think you can challenge me?" Lurik hissed. "I am the overseer. You are nothing." Caro stepped closer, holding his ground. "Nothing? You are only as strong as fear allows you to be. Today, fear ends." The aliens around Lurik hesitated. Some looked uncertain, confused. No one had ever defied him with such calm authority. No one had ever been recognized by the ancient system itself. Saul moved beside Caro, her hand shaking slightly at first, but her voice firm. "We will not live in fear any longer. Humans will rise. Humans will protect one another, and no one will stop us." Other humans began to step forward. Small at first, then larger groups joined. They surrounded Caro and Saul, not as a mob, but as a united front. Strength in numbers, yes, but more importantly, strength in purpose. The aliens whispered among themselves. Some turned away, unable to face the rising human resolve. Others hesitated, unsure whether to obey Lurik or to follow the force of the machine's judgment. Caro raised his hand. "Today is the day we reclaim our dignity. Today, we show the aliens that humans are more than labor, more than numbers, more than fear. We are life. We are courage. We are humanity. A hush fell over the room. Even the lights seemed to brighten, as though the station itself was in agreement. Then, slowly, the humans began to cheer. Not loud, quiet, steady, determined. A sound that carried the weight of survival, hope, and unity. Lurik's face twisted with rage. He stepped forward, but one of the aliens, an older worker who had watched everything silently, stopped him with a gesture. Even the aliens were realizing that the station systems now favored Karo. His courage had altered the balance. Saul looked at Karo. You did this. Karo shook his head. We did this. Every human who chose to follow courage instead of fear did this. One person starts the spark, but it takes many to make the fire. Mara, who had been hidden safely in the corner, now stepped forward. Her eyes glistened. And we will protect each other, she said softly. No one will be alone again. The humans nodded. For the first time in their lives, they felt truly seen, truly valued. They felt powerful, not through weapons, not through machines, but through unity, intelligence, and courage. The station vibrated gently again, almost like a sigh. The golden light receded to a soft glow, but the change remained. Carl looked at the humans surrounding him and knew something important. Fear had no place when courage existed, and the aliens could no longer rely on fear to control them. Commander Lurik turned, rage and disbelief written across his face. He realized he had lost, not through strength, but through the power of humans standing together. He fled the room, vanishing into the depths of the station, leaving the humans free to decide their next move. Carl stepped forward, standing tall. This is just the beginning. We protect the weak. We honor the brave. We rise together. And nothing, not fear, not cruelty, not alien power, will stop us. A soft cheer rose again, this time louder. The humans clapped, raised fists, and looked at each other with new pride. No one would be left behind. No one would be humiliated. They would survive, and they would thrive. Saul looked at Carl, her voice soft but filled with conviction. Humans are stronger than they ever imagined. Carl smiled faintly. And now they know it. The station, silent for centuries, had finally witnessed the rise of humans. Courage had won. Unity had won. Humanity had risen. And in that moment, every human knew the world, alien or human, would never underestimate them again. The HFY message was clear. When humans are pushed to the edge, when they are mocked, when they are tested, they rise. They endure. They protect. They fight. And they win. The golden glow of the station pulsed one last time before fading into the quiet hum of machinery. Humans walked tall, their eyes bright. One spark had become a flame. One act of courage had changed everything. And the story of Elias, Mara, and the humans of the station would be remembered forever.